This plague started in 2019 without a warning of its bleak future. Governments saw only one solution: confinement, which in some places was easier than in others, where the virus not only makes people sick, but also leaves stomachs empty. In India, the mandatory confinement of 1.3 billion people was an impossible task. Millions of impoverished workers arriving in the great cities from rural India have seen their incomes disappear with the measure. In countries like Pakistan, the pandemic is merciless with the most vulnerable.
हालात ख़राब हैं बिल्कुल मज़ीद और छोटे तबके के तो ज़्यादा ख़राब हैं क्योंकि बाजियों ने मना कर दिया अभी घर नहीं आना तो घर पे बैठे हुए हैं तो मतलब ना खाने के लिए ना कुछ राशन है.
On the other side of the world, thousands of Venezuelans are returning to their homeland because coronavirus has left them jobless in Colombia.
Yo vengo de Ocaña, norte de Santander. Salí antier de mi casa que nos corrieron del arriendo porque no teníamos trabajo como para pagar el arriendo ni nada de eso.
In Brazil, a group of scientists have found coronavirus traces in Rio de Janeiro's sewage system. And while health authorities around the world ask people to wash their hands to kill the virus, in some parts of Latin America, water is a luxury. Lidia Montes pays up to $18 a month for water, much more than those living in Lima's most privileged areas.
Sí, pues, aunque es más cara, pero ¿qué podemos hacer? Un poquito de agua y lo estamos lavando pues, para poder protegernos.
In Ecuador, confinement is not an option for thousands of precarious workers. The future of Western crops is in the hands of thousands of Romanian workers who are crossing the border into Germany amid the pandemic. In Cape Town, communities are ahead of the state and are lending a hand to the less fortunate. In Maryland, Pastor Scott Holmer is keeping his social distance during confessions. And in Tehran, citizens hold prayers in their cars during Ramadan. In Baghdad, hundreds of people rush to the Al-Shoh market shortly before the fast is broken. Orthodox Easter has its Mass in this church in Sofia, which was formerly an Ottoman mosque. In Moscow, a photographer witnesses an empty city. Whereas this ballet dancer fills her home in Prague with art. Romulus and Remus never had so few visitors. And Julius Caesar now only enjoys watching a seagull. Roman Forum celebrates Rome's 2773rd birthday like this: a discrete anniversary. Unlike Tokyo's cherry blossoms, with way too many visitors considering confinement. Paris's sunset on a motorbike now reminds passers-by of a blues song. And these wells in Texas see the price of their oil go lower and lower and lower.
Is still playing.
In New York, there is an epidemic in the wealthy neighborhoods and a different one in the poorest areas.
While the floor is still swaying.
The halt in the economy has changed Miami and Washington.
This moment will never come again.
For some, confinement is worse than the virus.
It's playing.
In the French capital, May 1st marks the end of the strict quarantine. Whereas in Belarus, no quarantine meant not saying goodbye to the Football League. Although some afraid of the virus only send their photos to the stadiums. Residents of Wuhan travel once again by train. Although the city still seems empty, as relentless coronavirus trackers work hard to keep the disease in check. Meanwhile, in Madrid, as in the rest of the world, people don't miss their appointment at 8 with their balconies. Happiness fills the hearts of survivors. And all around the world, humanity is reborn.